5.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome into the Triple Option. I unplugged Smokey's headset the other day, so I couldn't hear the loud thing. So
Is that what we were always?
Yes, it's Smokey's headset, which works like a speaker for the rest of the room.
I plugged it in this morning. There's something with the amplification or something. It's
Yeah,
not hitting the same.
I'll fix it.
I didn't even know we were starting.
Yeah, so there we go. But Chris Allman is back. Chris, I have not seen you in long enough for you to grow a full mustache.
That's right.
The last time you were here, you were kind of in the scruff phase of like the whole facial scruff, and now you have made the life choice to grow a mustache.
Yeah, can I tell you, in the life of any man that's going to go full mustache, the real pivotal moment. Garrett, have you ever had just a full-on mustache?
No, I can't bring myself to do it.
Okay.
Can't do it.
Let me tell you, if and when you decide to do it, I started with just scruff and stash.
Yeah.
And then Saturday, I went full-on razor to the face and just left the stash. That was really when I felt like I truly had a mustache.
And then, like,
My wife likes it.
Okay, good. I mean, it looks good on you.
If she told me to cut it, I would cut it.
Yeah.
Like I've got scene control at home, but I also know where my bread is buttered.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna. If my wife hates it, I'm gonna cut it off. But thank you for your compliments.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you. You see this thing right here?
Is that gonna be a mustache soon?
No, it will never be a mustache. And apparently, as long as I'm married, it will never be not here either.
Oh yeah, your wife likes
she likes the beard, and she thinks I look, quote, ridiculous without it.
Well,
so
we should. Talk to her about how you talk to your husband. But I've known you with both. I think you look fantastic.
No, I know. I think it works either way. But she prefers the beard.
Yeah,
you know?
Me
And
too.
so,
when I think about how I like my Paul.
Yeah. Beard Paul wins?
Yeah.
Here's the problem, though. Paul doesn't really like it.
Well,
I mean, I like to think it looks good. I don't like the way it feels attached to my face.
Yeah.
That's something I've had to get used to. I've had to buy like a lot of creams and oils and other things.
So I was going to ask, you and I have it's one of your friends. It's one of my professional favorites in town that does beard and hair. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're a sponsor, so I don't know. But
Champions sold, yes, but yeah.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they sold, but they have the academy still. But
Gotcha.
yes, still love to promote them. They're great. Yes.
So Lorraine and Kevin,
yes,
they were great when I became beard guy.
Yeah,
they taught me how to push through the difficult early stages of the beard and truly grow.
So I was going
to ask if you got tips from them.
They did, and I'm used to it now. But there are days where I'm like, not necessarily this time of year when the weather is tolerable.
Yeah.
But like this summer, I was just like, can I take this thing off my face?
So if you just disappeared into the bathroom for 45 minutes and came back out completely clean shaven, Amanda would, I guess, clearly tell you it sucked.
Yeah, she doesn't like it.
Would there be any other repercussions?
I don't know. I don't it's not worth it for me to find out.
Yeah, okay.
You know, because I've floated out there like, hey, look, I will grow it back, but if you just let me, because there's nothing, and Kevin and Lorraine introduced me to this world, better than a straight razor, shave all the way down.
You ever had one of those, Garrett?
That's what I learned to shave with. I have one at the house.
Oh, my gosh.
So it is.
What a gentleman.
Yeah, absolutely. There is nothing better than that. Like having that full, the first 2-3 days after it where you're still completely smooth and relaxed and you just feel like you've started anew.
Yeah.
Like springtime.
Yeah.
That's what I would like to do. For some reason, I think she's just afraid that it won't come back the same way.
No, it will.
Yeah, I know.
It will.
It's not this hair.
Yeah.
This hair lives with you forever.
Forever.
Unless you get some sort of other kind of condition. But that's not something I have because I can tell you, full on Italian all over.
She may change her tune when the beard goes gray. She may not love, salt and pepper. I didn't love it. That was part of the impetus for this.
Yeah.
Because it got real salty over here.
Yeah.
While we're on the topic of male grooming, have you ever done what's called sugaring? Have y'all heard of this?
Yeah, I've
heard of it.
Where
they yank the hair out of your nose with hot wax?
No, I've done that.
I've done it once.
Yeah, I've done more than once. Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you, this is what sucks about getting older. And our younger viewers may not know this yet. One of the things that I think is left out of the biblical story of Adam and Eve is that when man was cast out of the Garden of Eden, there were many minor punishments as well. And baldness was one of them.
Okay.
And the secondary thing to baldness was like, you're going to lose hair where you want it and gain it where you don't need it.
Yeah.
And that was the punishment for defiance of God, which I would like to go back to the negotiating table on. I think, I don't know why this has to be an all-time thing for something one idiot and a snake and an apple did. So,
okay, so your thoughts on most? I'll give you options.
Okay.
Nose, ear, eyebrows. Of those three, as you get older, that seem to just get out of control out of nowhere, which one do you hate the most?
The nose.
Yeah.
Because it comes on you at weird times.
Yes, and it's inside, and it can be the top.
Yeah.
Like you can get top nose hair.
You can, in your 20s, you're never awakened in the middle of the night by a nose hair. It's not going to happen to you in your youth.
No.
And then, your late 30s, early 40s, eventually you're like, what is going on? What is happening here? And then it takes you a minute because you've never even considered the fact that there's a hair deep in your nose that is just blowing around as you try to live.
Yeah, and as you get older, you blow your nose, and then it requires mandatory nose hair maintenance because you realize that the snot and stuff was keeping nose hair in your nose.
Yeah. I have 2 different types of nose hair trimmers. I'm not even ashamed to mention this. Okay. I'm fighting it at every level.
Yeah, you are.
I've done the wax thing. I've done it. It's very painful.
It is, but it feels really cool.
But afterwards, it's
nice.
There's
a weird confidence you feel walking around with a hairless nose.
No, I
put that on my tombstone, by the way.
It is. But there are times and there's other times where it's not at night. You're not at home. You're not anywhere near a nose hair trimmer, and you just know that this thing has sprung loose from wherever it is, and it's going to bother me the rest of the time. And then I think sometimes people think, is this guy on cocaine? Because he's just hey, I got to go blow my nose again. Oh, yeah, you do. Yeah, sure thing.
Oh, goodness.
But it's just the fact that, we violated our deal with God, and he is one of the many things that he is, minor, the minor inconveniences, outside of not being in the Garden of Eden. I think it's the minor inconveniences that were really the true punishment.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a verse in Genesis that says work is going to be hard.
Yeah.
It used to be fun. Now it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Manscaping now.
Yeah.
A challenge.
Exactly. All those things. That was just, God said, listen, this is how it's going to be, free and breezy. Don't eat this, don't eat that fruit. And then a talking snake comes up and the guy's like, well, yeah, what do you know, a talking snake. Hey, honey, what do you think about this snake? Because I think he's got some good ideas.
What a tremendous retelling of the creation and fall story we've got going here.
And then no one, because there wasn't a third person had been like, hey, the snakes shouldn't talk. Does the monkey talk? No. Just the snake. I understand we're the first ones of this, but it doesn't make sense that all these other things do and this guy doesn't and this guy does. But
and nose hair was the result of the fall.
Yeah,
that's
it was just
a lesson to take away.
I feel like he got with a committee of archangels and said all right, what are some things we can do?
Let's have some fun with this one.
And they're like, what would be really hilarious if for the first 35 years of their life they didn't have to deal with this one thing. And they really took a lot of effort into taking care of the hair on top of their heads. And then if the hair on the rest of them just got longer and longer and longer, and this one left. And then they freak out about it nonstop.
And it's still really just an evidence of the patriarchy because it was women, pain and childbirth. Men, nose hair?
Yeah.
That's all. That's it. That's all it'll be.
Yeah. No, we'll do that. That's just one of those things. We're just 1,000 little paper cuts. There's other things too.
Yeah.
When they're young, we're going to give them zits on their face. They'll have a lot and it'll make them feel awkward, but it's a rite of passage and it'll teach them how to be properly clean. When they're older and properly clean, then we are going to give them a zit in the middle of their back in the middle of the day that they can't do anything about and hurts, and they can't lean back in a chair, those kind of things.
When I first got into radio, there was this dude on the air in Austin that didn't know anything about sports, and the day after the Super Bowl, their first segment was basically something like this.
Yeah.
And the station manager came in and slammed the newspaper down and said, "The Super Bowl was yesterday. Would y'all like to talk about that?" And I'm having visions of that as we prep for the national championship game tonight.
We have 50 more minutes in this talk show, but like those are my theory. Like one day, like at Judgment, I'm going to ask him if that theory was right, and he'd be like, "You know what? You're not far off.
Nailed
you're
it,
not
Paul.
like you're really kind of close. Like it was just you're hovering in. There's some more other details, but yeah." Like, it gets boring up here sometimes, especially early on when there are only two of you.
Jack, I'm sorry you missed that, buddy. Make sure you go back and watch the replay of that beginning of that show.
Yeah. So, anywho, the national championship is tonight, and it is Washington and Michigan. And I will say this to tie in our first segment to this topic.
Segue coming.
Jim Harbaugh and Michigan winning this with the if they do with the Connor Stallions thing, look, I'll eventually make my peace with it, but it does feel a little bit like a zit on my back.
Okay.
Like it just one of those things where I'm like, I don't know. Like it's always gonna like live in my head of like how much of a difference did this make? And the thing is there's enough evidence out there to show you that it made a significant difference for them offensively. Defensively, they were just tough. I mean, like they've proven that out over these games where they clearly weren't being able to do it like they were.
Yeah.
But offensively, since that time has passed, their offense has been very mundane. And it's worked out for them because their defense is good, their offensive line is so good, they're very physical. But it will always make me feel strange about, like, did they not, like, was there a game that they could have had a bad day, even with their terrible schedule? Like, that's the other thing that will get me, because in the season of 12 regular season games, right, every team, and I can go through like the rest, like Washington, for God's sakes, has had 10 of them in a row, right, where like it's white knuckle time.
Yeah.
Ohio State had Notre Dame, like white knuckle time, like all these things where it was like, oh my gosh. Oregon had those 2 games against Washington, plus that game against Texas Tech, a team that was well below what they achieved.
Yeah.
At least, but it was Texas Tech played them great, played them off their feet in Lubbock. FSU had, the game against Boston College. Miami got a little dicey for a second. Alabama, my God, was their worst season in years, as far as that goes. Georgia started out the year, playing fast and loose, whatever. But Michigan never had that.
Right.
And so where was their chance to have that day where, everybody's kind of feeling off? Like, I don't know if I want to play Minnesota today. This is lame. Everybody's off. But if you know what's coming, maybe that feeling goes away a lot faster. And you have this great game where a team that's not doing that, fights their way through like everyone else does.
Yeah. You're asking, this is not really a joke, but you're asking an Astros fan if I'm okay with a potentially questionable championship.
Yes.
I don't know. I guess I haven't. Maybe offended is not the word. If there are,
I'm not. Look,
no. That's not the word.
Yeah.
For some reason, this has not bothered me. I don't know if it's because it did not shock me. I think college football in general feels to be a win at all costs thing. Jim Harbaugh feels like a guy who just wants to win. Mm-hmm. And so I think because this has not felt shocking to me, some of that might have been all my shock is gone because of the Astros trash can thing. So nothing shocks me when I find out someone was skirting or outright breaking the rules. But I haven't even thought about that. Really until you texted me this morning, that we would talk about kind of the ickiness of this. I hadn't even really thought about Connor Stallions.
And look, there are many, you can go back through the times and feel icky about any championship on any level of any sport based on. So look, I'm a Cowboys fan, and the 90s Cowboys weren't exactly chased. There was some stuff going on there, but you take the good with the bad. I wonder if it's not going to change my opinion of this Michigan team and how good they are.
Yeah.
It is going to change my opinion about, did they find a way to, the thing about,
Everything you said was accurate.
Yeah,
like, you're right. Like, when you know what's coming, when you're that confident objectively that you're going to route someone, it removes any of the mental blocks that come into play when in a trap game. There were no trap games for them.
No, and it's just those days, like some of them, they don't even look like trap games. Sometimes there's a really good team and a really bad team. The bad team's fired up because, like, what else do they have to live for?
Yeah.
And the good team's like, can we just get through today and go on to the one that we actually care about? That's human nature. Steroids bothered me in this. It wasn't that steroids allowed you to go from 38 home runs to 55 home runs. It was that not only did it make you stronger, but where other guys, like back in the day, would be out of the lineup for 3 weeks because they were dealing with something, it was allowing you to play those games. Like, it was the combination of the two. Like, this is coaching steroids, right?
Yeah.
Gives you, like, this allows you to be present in moments sometimes where you're not totally mentally present, because you can just, signal like, hey, by the way, this is what's coming, and this is how you do that. So
so will it impact the way you watch it tonight?
No, because look, no one trusts Michigan at all. I do think there's another layer to this that has to do with their previous offensive coordinator that was let go, and the FBI is investigating that. But we don't know anything about that other than computer access crimes. But I feel like part of me thinks, like, okay, computer access, like, was this guy getting credit card numbers or was he doing something else? And I don't think that a guy like that is going to be like identity theft,
Yeah.
That's not what, or that, like, that was the perfect, like, listen, we're going to run a big identity theft ring.
Yeah.
The perfect cover is Michigan's offensive coordinator, like, let's, no one will suspect it.
I guess I haven't. And perhaps the machine of college football has orchestrated it this way, that this story has not been top of mind in the last month or so. When the news cycle really starts to reach that time between conference championship and semifinal day. I mean, it's like that last Friday before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, we're looking for anything to get one more story in.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that it hasn't come up more. I don't consume.
Well, part of it is that, like, they can't even talk about it. So, like, you have, like, I've heard reporters ask, and then, like, Jim Harbaugh, he did an interview with, I think it was Marty Smith, where Marty Smith it was a good interview. Marty Smith brought it up, and he's like, look, I wish I could talk about it. I would love to talk about my integrity and blah, 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 and all these other things. And, but I can't, it's just like, it's ongoing. So yeah, I'd love to hear, I would love to hear the explanation. I think maybe the other reason it feels icky to me is I probably don't believe in the grand scheme of things that Michigan hierarchy didn't know what Connor Stallions was doing.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can't be as good as he was at doing this, and no one's going to go, man, how's he doing this? You would want to, here's the thing. You're always going to prepare, coaching, you always have to prepare to lose a guy.
Right.
So you're always going to, you want to learn. When your offensive coordinator leaves to go to another place, hopefully if you want to keep the same system, you're going to hire somebody who's learned from him, and that person's been like, this is what I learned from him, and this is what I learned from this other guy I coached for, and we're going to put it all together, and it's going to be my unique style. But if you're Connor Stallions and you're just as good at stealing signs, which again is legal, if you're as good at decoding the signals of the other team as you are, and no one asks you, and maybe it's just because he was so blindly allegiant to the program, they thought, we're never going to lose this guy, but you never know what happens to people in life. Maybe he's debilitated in some way. You don't have him. Yeah. You're always going to want those advantages because that's how sports works. So no one was going to ask, how'd you figure this out?
Yeah.
And if they believed him, I'm just watching the tape. Yeah, but the tape is, you only get little bits of it at a time. There's not just a camera on these people all the time. So what are you watching? To which then you'd have to go through, and look, all these other teams pick things up over time, but it's more of an aggregation as opposed to here's Rutgers. And you're like, geez, I'm glad you don't have a girlfriend, buddy. To me, you always got to ask those questions.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're pretending like this was, like Lee Harvey Oswald acted of his own volition completely, to me is a little bit shady.
Yeah, for sure. I don't believe that. But I think it's all part of the game we play, right? Like this is the accusation. This is the alleged crime. These people who are affiliated with the alleged criminal are going to say, oh, we didn't know. And the people that make their living covering a sport that are now having to cover a crime beat, they're not going to press that hard on it. Don Van Natta might, right? There's going to be some guy that does, but then we just go, you know what? We'd all just rather talk about football. We're all making a good living on this thing. Like, let's just talk about football. And I'm so indifferent to it that I just think there's 19 other really good stories coming out of this that I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if Connor Stallions was sitting at the 50 at the Sugar Bowl.
And I do think that that's a good thing about all this.
Yes.
But I did want to get your opinion specifically as an Astros fan, because you dealt with this on a personal level where, you woke up one morning and read a story and you're like, well, that's not good.
Yeah. But here's what I think. Yeah. I do like that one. I do feel different about 2017. Yeah. I do. Like, they broke the rules. Yeah. Now, do I think they broke them in the World Series? No. Doesn't matter, right? Like, okay. But again, that's my allegiance to them that is clouding that. This is going to help make my point.
You, Darvish, would just paint the corners with you.
Well, we weren't stealing signs in Game 7 when in L.A. Yeah. Anyway, that's beside the point. This is going to make my point, though. Yeah. My allegiance to Houston wants me to believe and allows me to believe and sleep fine at night thinking, well, if we didn't steal signs in the World Series, we're fine. I think college football allegiance is 10 times more so. And a crazy Michigan fan has absolutely justified whatever has gone on.
Every time there's like a new different piece of information, there's like a counter story for Michigan. It's like, but Ohio State.
Yes, exactly.
But Ohio State does this. Or Ryan Day hired a private investigator that went to middle school with his brother. Yeah. So obviously these guys go way back.
Yeah. It's like a marital argument, right? Mm-hmm. You guys have all had it. Like my wife the other night, who does not snore, I said, "Hun, you were snoring last night." And she goes, "You snore all the time." Like that's what this is. Like you say, Michigan, this is like kind of a heady accusation. Oh, well, you don't think Bear Bryant was doing this in 1978 in Sugar Bowl? Like that's what it is. It's all whataboutism. Yeah. And so it makes my head spin. So I'm like, I don't care.
So you just immerse yourself in the joy.
I do. And I have the beauty of not caring, right? Yeah. Like I don't care. Yeah. I don't care because I don't think Washington is like probably not above board, right? Like maybe they're not stealing signs, but everybody is cheating to some degree. Yeah. Everyone is. Yeah. So I just prefer to say, okay, that's the baseline. Like, just play the game and tell me who wins, right? And I prefer to look at it like, Kalen DeBoer could win a national championship. That like further cementing that the guy's just a winner. Yeah. Like, I'd prefer that. Or Michael Penix. Or like, is Harbaugh going to leave tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.? Like, those are the kinds of things that pique my interest more. But I don't, to answer your question, no, I don't really feel icky about them potentially winning it. But you do a little bit, like is it on your back?
It's always going to be, and look, you can go through the list, and I always have something that's like, I just wish I didn't have to think about that in regard to this. Yeah. Like, I'm fine with all of it, know.
Yeah. As a guy that's been in the profession now for 2 decades, is it a little bit of here we go again? Yeah, like you can't just cover the sport you love.
And part of it is like I'm not so mad that maybe they were doing this, but like I prefer when people get straight up caught red-handed that they're like, look, did we push it a little too far? Like the thing that pissed me off about the Astros, not that they were doing it, because there were teams trying to do it with Apple Watches and all these other things that got caught along the way. It's that when they were egregiously doing it and they got caught egregiously doing it and there was evidence to the contrary, instead of saying like, listen, these kind of things going across baseball, and we maybe got a little too carried away. Yeah. And we will spend the rest of our time proving that this is not who we are. Yeah. We're still one of the most elite teams in baseball. And this was something that we just got a little out of our skis. I would love to do that. Yeah. Like when Michigan, like Connor Stallions was doing this, like, look, the rule's a little antiquated. We thought we could push it a little bit, so we did. We're sorry. We'll take the medicine. But pretending like it didn't happen or that we're all too stupid to understand is what gets me.
Okay.
Because that's the thing that bothers me. It's like, no. Like, I get you doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to be okay with you doing it and you
Yeah.
broke the rule. But what makes me madder is how stupid you treat us all when we ask the question about why it happened.
Yeah, there's a hubris that...
That's what gets me.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
like, look, I understand that there's a great many stupid people in the world. But we're not all stupid.
Right.
And when one of the not stupids asks you a reasonable question, don't try to cast us in the lot.
Sure.
Like that's where I get upset about it.
Yeah.
And that's where my little, back zit about this occurs. It's just like, look, if you'd have been like, look, yeah. I mean, I know that they can't really come out and say that, but if they had done this in a more like, no, you're the a-hole fashion, like they did, like less of that,
yeah.
it would have been easier to swallow.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. That's the part that gets me is like, hey, I'm just curious about like why you're doing this and like, what happened or like, tell me about Connor Stallions.
Yeah, but I tell you what, I don't know that there is a more vicious court of public opinion than college football. It just feels to me like it seems to be the most vocal of tribes, right? Like it is in and of itself tribal. It's regional. It's alumni based. It's very tribal.
Yeah.
And those are the most vocal. So Ohio State fan, not one of them is ever going to say, let's approach this the way you do, right? Like okay, just tell us what was going on. Maybe it's possible this isn't as bad as it sounds. That's not what Ohio State fan or employee or player wants, or Penn State or anyone. And so I think that adds to this, right? Like there's no, maybe grace isn't the word, but there's like nobody wants
to get into the nitty gritty of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And
have the
especially,
uncomfortable conversation about it.
Yeah. And Jim Harbaugh has made himself the boogeyman.
Yeah.
He's just an easy guy to dislike. He's an easy guy to hammer.
Yeah.
Nobody outside of Ann Arbor is coming to Jim Harbaugh's aid.
No.
Right. So.
No. And it is, but like sometimes you need like get down to the nitty gritty of
Yeah.
it. What I think is good that will come out of this is, sometimes these things enable you to have like a real discussion, like baseball had to have a real discussion about like, hey, there's technology that exists that maybe would render what the Astros specifically were doing moot so that we don't have to worry about this again. And maybe we should do it. College football has they love to cry poor for years and years and years. They're like, well, we could do this at the NFL, but we don't have the money that the NFL does. The NFL shares money and all these other things. But like even at the way that technology and helmet radios work now, it's even the most destitute FBS school can't be like, well, we can't afford $10,000. Like, oh, you can't?
Right. Right.
Yeah. What did you guys spend on Gatorade this year? Just tell me what you spent on Gatorade.
Yeah.
So
the money excuse is long gone.
It's long gone. So now they can say like, all right, look, let's pull some resources here and make this a rule to where now we don't have to worry about people can go in-person scout all they want now.
Yeah.
If they have the budget to do it, and it's not going to be, Connor Stallion's sign stealing thing.
Right.
That here's the thing, the first segment of the national championship show, we're talking about it because it does hang over this thing.
Yeah.
It's just there,
Sure.
And we'll talk about the second thing that's hanging over it in the next segment, in that the poor Pac-12 could win the national championship.
Yeah.
From its deathbed. Literally from its deathbed could win the national championship.
This makes me madder than sign stealing.
Oh, me too.
This is the thing that bums me out more than sign stealing, because it speaks to a larger institutional issue more than a rogue program or rogue employee.
Yeah.
If Michigan wants us to believe this was this one guy who went rogue, or say it's a rogue systemic issue inside there, that's fine. It's one school.
Yeah.
What's about to happen to the Pac-12 pisses me off 10 times more than sign stealing.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is the Triple Option on 365.